Okay, to introduce this new chapter, we are going to cover more or less what you covered last year in 7th grade. It's basically understanding the parts and dimensions of a circle. So with a circle, the basics behind it, whether or not you covered it in 6th grade or not, is the parts of the circle. So the radius is the distance from the edge of the circle to the center versus the diameter is the distance all the way across the circle. Now in 7th grade, I know that you did cover how to find what's called the circumference and the area. Circumference is a fancy schmancy way of saying the perimeter, but the reason why we don't use the word perimeter when it comes to circles is because a circle doesn't have sides that you can add. So we have what's called the circumference. Now on the circumference, you have two different formulas. You have C equals 2 pi r, which you use whenever it's given the radius, and then C equals pi d if it's given the diameter. Now, for all intents and purposes, because I know every teacher is different, but when we're talking about this new unit, okay, I stress to my kids is that you always need to find the radius. So I am going to avoid, for the purpose of 8th grade, avoid using C equals pi d. So if they do give me the diameter, which is the distance all the way across the circle, I want us to get in the habit of finding the radius, which means cut it in half to find the radius. So we're just going to use C equals 2 pi r. Now, the area of the circle is not the distance around the circle, but the space inside the circle. So again, because it's area, it doesn't have a length and width. It's not like a rectangle where you can just multiply base times height or length times width. It has its own formula. So A equals pi r squared is how you find the area of a circle. So for each question, we are going to find the circumference, which is the distance around, and the area, which is the space inside. With that, though, my first question to you is, on number 1, what part of the circle did it give me? Did it give me the radius or did it give me the diameter? Well, if the 6 is a line from all the way across the circle from end to end, then it is the diameter. So from here on out, if I see the diameter, I want to cut it in half. And of course, the simplest way to cut something in half is divide by 2. So in this case, 6 divided by 2 is 3. So we're going to use 3 instead of 6. And since we're going to find the circumference first, remember the formula is C equals 2 pi r. So in this case, it's 2 times pi times 3. And it's just multiplication. So you type it in your calculator, 2 times, and to get the pi, we don't use 3.14 in 8th grade. It's second caret top times 3. So 2 times pi times 3. And we're going to round to the 10th place. So that's one number after the decimal, 18.8. And the technical measurement for circumference is just centimeters because it's like perimeter. Now the area, how you find the area of a circle is pi times radius squared. So pi times the radius, which we already know is 3, and squared. So pi times 3 caret top 2. Hit enter. We're going to go to the tens place as well, and it's 28.3. Now, because it's area, my dimensions or measurements are centimeters squared. Okay, so perimeter is 1-dimensional, area is 2-dimensional, which is why we square it. Let's do that again. Number 2, what part of the circle did it give me? It gave me the diameter. How do I know? Because it's all the way across the circle. So I need to divide 9 divided by 2 to cut it in half. So we're not going to use 9, we're going to use 4.5. Now the circumference, again, is 2 pi r. So 2 times pi times 4.5. We just type that in, and we get 28.3 because we're rounding to the tens place. And then the units would just be centimeters. Now the area, again, is pi times the radius squared, so 4.5 squared. So pi times 4.5 squared. And we go to the tens place would be 63.6, but because it is area, it's centimeters squared. Okay, following so far? Number 3, what part of the circle did it give me? It gave me the radius. How do I know that's the radius? Because it's halfway across the circle. So I do not need to cut it in half if it's already the radius. The circumference is C equals 2 times pi times the radius. Okay, and so it's 25.1, again, centimeters. The area is pi times 4 squared because pi times the radius squared. And that would be 50.3 centimeters squared. So far, so good. Number 4, it's already the radius. How do I know? Because it's halfway across the circle. So for circumference, 2 times pi times 5. and it's 31.4 centimeters. Area is pi times 5 squared is 78.5 centimeters squared. Number 5, what if I take away the picture completely? So you just have to read it. It says find the circumference and area of a circle with a radius of 5.2. So if it flat out tells me the radius is 5.2, I do not need to cut it in half. So we're just going to use 5.2. C equals 2 times pi times 5.2. So 2 times pi times 5.2, and that would be 32.7 inches. And the area would be pi times 5.2 squared. So the hard part about today is whether or not you can determine if it wants circumference or area, because it won't ask for both, and then which formula to use, 84.9 inches squared. Number 6, find the circumference and area of a circle with a diameter of 22. So since it tells me the diameter is 22, I need to cut that in half. So I'm going to divide by 2. So we're going to use 11 instead of 22. So 2 times pi times 11 for the circumference, and that's 69.1 inches. Area would be pi times 11 squared, and that would be 380.1 inches squared. One more or two more. The circumference and area of a circle with a diameter of 4. Again, if it mentions diameter, cut it in half. So instead of 4, we're going to use 2. So 2 times pi times 2 is 12.6 inches. Area is pi times 2 squared. So that's, ironic, the same, which rarely happens. So don't assume that it's ever going to happen again. I'm sorry, 6 inches squared. Okay, number 8, it says find the circumference and area of a circle with a radius of 2.3. Since it already tells me the radius, I do not need to cut it in half. So 2 times pi times 2.3 is 14.5 feet, versus the area, pi times 2.3 squared, is 16.6 feet squared. So again, from here on out, if you see diameter or if it mentions diameter, cut it in half. We want the radius, okay? And if it asks for circumference, use 2 pi r. If it asks for area, use pi r squared.